Hello guys, hope you're all alright, it's Oscar here again and you're watching Started Up vlog number 2. Thank you for watching and liking our previous episodes, and today we'll have a special interview with natural born and serial entrepreneur Calum. He's the founder of NoAgent, one of the most disruptive estate startups here in London. They recently raised over £2 million and has grown their team from 2 employees to 35. Today we spent the whole day at the office, we watched how they're working, we've spoken with the team and discussed the daily routine of a true entrepreneur. So I think everyone who wants to start his own business now will find this interview extremely useful. Enjoy guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Let's roll! What's up guys, we're in Shoreditch now at NoAgent. I think it's one of the most disruptive estate startups there is in London now. And please I'm introducing you to Calum, the founder of NoAgent. Hi Calum, thank you for having us here today. So can you please tell us about yourself, how you came up into entrepreneurship and everything about NoAgent?
Okay, yeah, sure. So I started my journey as an entrepreneur when I was 15. I launched a social network from my bedroom, and primarily it was to help my friends talk to each other at school because MySpace was banned. And quickly it managed to achieve over 500,000 users. And that was kind of my first taste of entrepreneurship, you might say. At 17, I moved to London to actually work for one of the dragons from Dragon's Den. I sent him an email, and next thing I knew, I was in London doing some work for him. And I was based in their office for a little while, and then actually moved back to the Midlands to start my next business, which is a business called Crowd Control. And Crowd Control was a social media management product which we sold to banks and government institutions. And about 3 years ago I had an opportunity to leave that business, and as part of kind of what I wanted to do next, the first thing I needed to do was rent my property out. And what I did was I invited some letting agents into my house, and listened to their spiel and and their one-liners and all the stuff you expect to hear from a letting agent, and was just massively disheartened by the experience, and also the pricing. The pricing really scared me because I'd had all these plans of what I was going to spend the income on, and then when I actually looked at what was going to be left for me, it was pretty disappointing. So I tried Airbnb, and I fell in love with the platform. Being a complete geek, I love the automation of it, I love the community element, the social side. What wasn't so fun was picking up people's dirty laundry and doing the dishes after they left. So that quickly kind of fell out of favour with me. And that's what made me then begin to look at, was there something like this in the private rented sector? And I looked low and high, and I couldn't find anything at all that matched what I wanted to do. There's lots of services that will allow you to advertise cheaply on Rightmove and Zoopla, but nothing really that takes you through the entire rental life cycle of a rental. And that's how I got to this. And I actually was a customer of OpenRent many years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, I think. And for me, OpenRent does a really brilliant job of what they do, but they do 5% of what renting a property is about. They do the easiest bit, which is listing on Rightmove and Zoopla. The landlord then still has to pre-qualify the tenant, has to talk and negotiate, has to potentially do the viewings, has to take the photos, has to do all the running around. OpenRent is a really great bit of tech that gets you to the first base. What NoAgent does is it automates as many of those processes on behalf of the landlord, replicates what a traditional agent would do, but reduces all the cost, all the hassle, and massively cuts down on the time it takes to do all of those elements. And if you look at the entire rental life cycle, NoAgent automates every single piece. So that's the rent collection, it's the repair triage, it's negotiating the offer with the tenant, it's the renewal stage. Every single piece we do something with technology to speed it up and make it cheaper. So there are people that play in the kind of the beginning stage, but actually very few businesses, if not I still believe we're the only one that really truly automates the entire life cycle.
But what's your benefit? How do you make money? I mean,
So we charge a recurring monthly fee. Okay, so this is again what I really like about this business. So we really prove ourselves. We don't charge anything up front. So we have to find you great tenants. We have to get them in as quick as possible. We have to make sure they're the right fit and they're going to stay, because we only make our money when they move in and they stay.
so landlords start paying only once tenant has moved in.
Exactly that.
Okay.
Exactly that. Apart from the additional bolt-ons such as photos or inventories, but that would be a charge anywhere you go. And normally that inventory cost is passed on to the tenant. So there's some advantage for the tenant as well, because we charge 0 fees.
So no check-in fees, no admin fee.
No check-in, no admin,
That's
no
great.
referencing, and a new exciting partnership we just launched with Experian means that actually all of our tenants can improve their credit score while they're renting with us.
How?
So we report your payment. So every time you pay your rent, we say to Experian, this person has paid their rent, and Experian will actually take that data and improve your credit score using it. And we're the first national kind of business of our type to do that deal with Experian.
That's great. Congrats.
Thank you.
And payments are made as a direct debit through your platform,
That's
yeah?
it. Yeah, about 95% of our payments are done via direct debit, which means we can get on to chasing any payment failures really, really quickly. And some independent research from Experian has shown that actually the arrears rate, so people that don't pay their rent, will reduce to 70%. So 70% people are less likely to default on their rental payments when you report to credit referencing agencies.
That's a great number. So your business helps to automate the industry, but it also makes it all transparent.
Transparent, yeah.
For tenant, for landlord, and smaller fees.
Exactly.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, can you tell us about your current competition in the market?
Yeah, so we compete with, as I mentioned, the market's really fragmented. And so we compete with everybody from your local family-owned letting agent right through to your national brands, and even straight on with the new innovators such as Purple Bricks. So we have lots of competition if you look at directly pound for pound spent. But actually, when it comes to people that want to use a platform and want to have transparency and want to lower their costs, I think we're starting to carve out our own niche in this space.
So as I said before, estate industry is extremely competitive.
Yeah.
And we're interested in how did you come up to the idea, how did you find your niche, how did you understand that that's a business which I want to do?
Yeah, so I think when you look at the markets that exist, so many industries have felt disruption, and then property just seems to be sitting over here, kind of doing the same thing it's always done, and really changing very slowly. And actually, I think the most important thing with starting a business is finding a problem that has maybe impacted you or people you know. And that's where I started. That was my starting point. If I've got this feeling of high prices and low service, then other people must have. And I began to network out. We took a stand very, very early on at one of the regional landlord fairs, and we just spoke to landlords. We had a pop-up banner that we'd made on Photoshop ourselves, and just spoke to people. Said, what do you think about a product where the letting agent, as you know them now, are removed from the market, and it's replaced with people that are just specialised in certain areas, and also technology powering all of it. And people were really warm into that idea. And then when you then go in with the price, that's when people really go, well, yeah, this is something that's worth the chance. And I think all those ingredients, I think, and then when we had our first article in The Guardian very early on, saying that this could potentially be a new way, I think that's when we were like, okay, maybe this is something that's...
So to find your niche, first identify a problem of a customer which they feel, speak with the people to get the feedback and act upon it.
Definitely.
Okay, great.
And refinement is really important.
Refinement?
So our first pitch, if you kind of got us to do our first pitch now, which I can't really remember, and then actually look at where we are today with the product and the vision, it's very different. Because at first we thought we could automate everything. We never thought we'd have an operations centre. We thought it would be an app and
And
that
the-
would be it. But actually, you start to realise that property is such a huge part of people's life. It's a massive outgoing. It's a huge asset that people want to be able to pick up the phone for somebody. So as our business has grown, the amount of people it takes to service the accounts has reduced. But I think there's always going to be that need for people. So it changes. So your first vision might not always be right, and what the first customer says to you might not always be right, but listening to lots and refining is important.
Okay, makes sense. So each time upgrade your business model
Yeah.
with the time as you go. I get it. You mentioned you've been published in Guardian.
Yeah.
How did it happen? I mean, a lot of startups, they dream about
Yeah.
making it to Guardian.
I think I think if you are really certain about your product and you can begin to prove its benefits, I think it's the same to convince a journalist to write about you as it is to convince a customer to put their trust in you. And actually, we worked with an independent PR consultant, a really great chap who's helped us on and off throughout the business. And I think it's about discussing very openly what you think the story can be, what the PR thinks the story can be, but also in other instances, I've picked up the phone personally to people and just sent a really simple email that says, this is what we're doing, this is why we think it might interest you. And journalists also really respond well to that.
Yeah.
There was a recent instance with a huge tech blog, I won't name them just yet, but I said, would you be interested in this article? The journalist called me and said, let's talk. We had a chat. He said, great business, but not now. And he said, if you can do this, this and that, I will write about you. And I was, okay. So that's actually now given us, so we've not just got these targets for revenue and for customers, we've now also got milestones that we know will help us get that next bit of coverage, which then makes those next revenue targets and investment rounds easier.
That's great that you mentioned it. How important is to have a milestones for entrepreneurs? And what are the most important qualities in entrepreneurs nowadays, on your point of view?
Yeah, so again, it's the same with the original vision. Your milestones will also change. So we spent a very long time as a business measuring one particular metric, but actually there was another metric that was really important that we hadn't quite grasped how important that was yet. So I think having milestones is great, but make sure they're the right ones and try and get as many opinions from investors and shareholders that you are measuring the right metric, because there's always going to be people that are more experienced and have been there and got the t-shirt. So so that's important. But I think it's fundamental. I mean, yesterday was our close of month, and our sales director was up till 10 to 12. I was waiting by our CRM to see what we closed on. So I think if you can rally everyone around it and get them to believe in the metric, I think that's also important. There's no point having them if they're just going to sit by the wayside.
And what are the most important qualities in entrepreneurs nowadays?
I think, so my other half said to me yesterday, you really are obsessed with this business, and I think obsession is quite important. Obsession of the details, obsession of the milestones and where you want to be with the business, obsession around your competitors, obsession around legislation and what's happening in the industry, but then also I think the ability sometimes to kind of enjoy what's happening, because I think it's really easy to become super stressed and super tied up.
Can you give an advice for people who want to start business nowadays?
Yeah.
What's the most important and how to keep on staying motivated?
Yeah, I think for me, when you look at a lot of people that started businesses, the first idea might not always be the one that works, and it can be very difficult. So I think actually, whatever you do, don't be disheartened if the first thing you try and do isn't the one. The lessons and experiences you'll get from that journey will be invaluable. I think surround yourself with the best people possible, and be prepared to offer more than just money. You have to offer them, time. You have to offer them a vision, and I think it's really important that you build that and spend time honing that into the right vision so everyone can get behind it.
How to stay motivated for people who just start in business?
Yeah, so how to stay I would say celebrate the small things. So take the time to actually not just get in growth, like I said before, to actually celebrate the small things. get to know your competitors past their gloss. I think it's too easy to kind of feel disheartened when you see a new press release going out from a competitor, but then when you speak to one of their ex-employees, you realise it wasn't as glossy as, you know. So I think don't get bogged down too much with what's going on outside of your control. Do what you're doing really well and serve your customers really well, and I think you'll be fine. But so it's just celebrate the small things, and just listen to the advice that's there for you. Sometimes it's difficult, but actually it can be the best advice you've ever received.
Can you tell us about that day? What it is to work in a startup?
Yeah.
Your daily routine. What are you doing on a daily basis?
Okay, sure. I think what's really probably not as exciting, I don't drink bulletproof coffee, I don't go for a 20-mile run, I've never been up a mountain. It's not as glamorous for me. I mean, there's lots of entrepreneurs who are kind of like the Iron Man, and I mean, my daily routine involves, I try and get to bed as early as I can, although sometimes there's a lot of distractions. I live in Shoreditch, so you can often find me at a restaurant. But I have a French bulldog, so normally the morning involves trying to persuade the French bulldog to wake up.
Is it that one?
Who's also asleep again over there, yeah. I like to try and get into the office as early as possible, but sort of 9 o'clock-ish. We start at 9:30 here. It's not a kind of strenuous start. And normally the first thing I do is kind of look what's coming overnight, look at the numbers, look at where we are against the target, and then just try and understand what the week has in store for us, because and what sort of meetings we have. But
so you are the first guy who comes to the office?
Not always, no, but normally one of the first if I can help it.
So the whole day you work, then you go home, maybe restaurant and sleep?
Yeah. Try and get to bed early and then repeat again in the morning.
Routine already?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Okay. No.
But nothing too exciting. And I think that's important. I think, again, the entrepreneur is being portrayed as almost in the press as this kind of unmovable kind of Iron Man, and I think
what you mean.
It's silly, because actually anybody can become an entrepreneur, and it's really important that it fits in with your home life, it fits in with your vision, and you don't need to go and do crazy things. You just need to perform really well and just make sure that you're being true to what the vision is and what your shareholders expect.
Okay, so you raised 600 on crowdfunding and 1.5 mil with Angel.
Yeah.
No, let's start with Angel. How was your Angel experience? How did you approach Angels?
So I was quite lucky. So the guys that I used to work for when I was 17, when I did my stint in London, 10 years ago that was now, were actually backed me in the early instance. So once I'd put a bit of my own money into the business to build the prototype, get the initial customers, then took that prototype and that vision to a network of investors, and then spent some time networking amongst my current connections. I think the angel network as well is littered with people who kind of call themselves angel investors and will spend a lot of your time, and you spend a lot of time with them, and it won't become fruitful. And sometimes that's because the idea is just not very good, but also sometimes because maybe they're not in this, if you've got big ambitions to raise 200 grand and they've got 10,000 to offer you, then you're probably, so it's as much about qualifying your angel investors as it is about them qualifying you. So you should do your research and ask people, how much did this person invest? How much, was it a good experience? What was the follow-on investment like? I think you don't want to be spending a huge amount of time. You can easily be spending 50% of your time with your investors. So you need to know you've got people that really back your vision, that have the ability to follow on if you require it, and you need to be really upfront about your expansion plans. If your vision is to go on and raise 20 million at Series B in 2 years, you probably should be really upfront about that, because that will change who your early stage investors are and who the VC is. Okay. If your vision is that you think you're only going to need £1 million to get the business to where it is, because you want to open a small app that just covers London or something, then that's also fine, but you should make sure your investors are also up for that.
So do due diligence on them.
Exactly, yeah. There's been many occasions and in the press recently where people have taken money from pretty aggressive VCs who want to strip out all the cost and just accelerate the business, which isn't a problem, but is that what you want as an entrepreneur? So it's about figuring that out as well.
Just great advice, thank you. And about crowdfunding, which one was harder for you, angel investment or crowdfunding?
Crowdfunding was really an exciting experience. It involved waking up every hour to see what was happening on it. It was kind of a bit of a high, and the run up to our next crowdfunding round, which we launched today, has been an anxious one because we're even further down the track.
We launched today?
We launched today on our next crowdfunding.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. So that was really, really exciting. But there are pitfalls of crowdfunding as well, because you are then accountable to what was previously a network of maybe 20 investors that can kind of increase tenfold overnight to 200 investors. And in amongst those the people that invested in us, we know there are people that work for competitors that have put £20 in or £50 in on that round. So then becomes the kind of problem of how much information flow do you provide to that network, knowing that your competitors sit within that, that group, and every time you need to raise investment in the future, you have to go back out and offer the crowdly preemption right, which is great and we want those guys to carry on investing, but everything has its own weighted set of considerations that come with it. So really exciting experience, but it's.
Can I ask you a personal question as well?
Yeah.
Did you pledge in your own campaign?
So with this campaign, I actually didn't follow on, personally. But I did invest personally when we started the business. I think it all depends on the entrepreneur and where they are in their journey.
No, the reason I'm asking, because we also, with my own startup, we approached seeders.
Yeah.
Our goal was 80,000, but they required to pledge 20,000 in order to stimulate people to invest.
Okay, right. So to answer your question, then probably differently. Seeders isn't, or Crowdcube or whatever platform you go on, isn't a kind of a guaranteed pot of money. You need to do a lot of work offline to actually get people warmed up to the idea. So I actually, before our last round, looked at the investors in similar businesses, and then looked at investors that I thought would also be interested in this type of business. Found them on LinkedIn, said to them, we're going to launch on Seeders. I can see you pledged £5,000 in a campaign also in property or on marketplace or whatnot. Would you be interested in receiving some information when it goes live? And spent a couple of days just messaging as many people on LinkedIn as possible that I knew were active on Seeders. And also getting commitment from your current shareholders or getting commitment from friends and family, I think, is also really important. I come from a working class background, so my kind of idea of a friends and family round was 50 quid each, and then having to buy them drinks in return next time I've seen them. But it's all important. It's all part of the momentum, and it's all part of, if you can persuade friends and family to back you, if you can persuade colleagues to back you, I think it shows a lot for the business and a lot for what people think of you and your business.
But it again shows your obsession that you've spent a day or two like researching people who are interested in the same industry, mailing them, and that's why it was a big success. So that's all, guys. That's the end of our new section today at Startup. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed the interview with Calum and you enjoyed the office, the lifestyle of entrepreneurs. They've already attracted 2 million investment, so I guess he knows what they're doing, and you should, guys, take care of what he's saying. I hope you enjoy the episode and you're doing great with all your businesses, and see you next time.